LLC, farmland preservation to commercial in the town of Brighton. And finally, number 5, Chris Fieri on behalf of David and Kristen Gruna, general agriculture to rural residential, town of Elderon. I would like to introduce the members of the committee. I, Mike Ritter, Vice Chair, Supervisor Randy DeBrew, Supervisor Alan Drabeck, Supervisor John Kroll, Supervisor Jay Schoenborn, Supervisor Rick Seefelt, and we have Tom Miller here, our farm representative, and Marilyn Bend is with us on the phone. She is our town's representative. We also have staff present. Lori Miskimmons, Director of CPZ. We have Shad Harvey, the Land Resource Manager. Nicole Deloney, Office Manager. I think that's it. The establishment of the ERC committee is required by law for purposes of administration of county ordinances and land conservation programs. This committee must follow state laws and local ordinances as written. This committee cannot change or ignore any part of the ordinances or state laws, but must apply the laws as written. The purpose of this committee is to hear and decide on proposed ordinances and ordinance revisions, rezoning petitions, and provide direction on land conservation and planning programs. The ERC committee will give a full and fair hearing to any person applying for a rezone petition. A tape recording is being made of the meeting, which will assist with preparation of written hearing minutes. The committee is interested in hearing all pertinent comments and questions. Each hearing will be opened by reading the public notice and allowing staff to present a staff report, including evidence from any on-site inspection. The applicant and anyone wishing to testify will be sworn in and allowed to give testimony. Witnesses will be called. It will be called in the order of those first in favor, second opposed, and then third as interest. The committee may ask questions of the zoning staff and applicant. It is necessary we set a reasonable time limit on individual statements and on the overall length of the hearing. To promote orderly discussion, anyone wishing to present oral testimony or ask questions related to the hearing should state your name, present your testimony or question so it becomes part of the official record. We request you avoid repetition. Once the committee has all of the necessary facts, the chairman will close the hearing and allow no further testimony, and the committee will deliberate and decide in front of the public whether the applicant has met the standards in the ordinance. No additional testimony from the public is allowed during the deliberation. However, the committee may question staff for purposes of clarification. After a decision is made, the committee will proceed to the next hearing. Many of the decisions made by the committee are a recommendation to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, who will take up the matter at a future county board meeting. Contact staff for more information regarding this county board process. The committee will now hear the applications that I stated before. So we will start with item 5A1, the petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of William Hart, General Agriculture to Rural Estate, Town of Elderon. Chad, can we swear you in? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
I do. All right, so William Hart petition to rezone land staff report, April 29th, 2025, Environmental Resource Committee. The petitioner is Tim Vreeland at 6103 Dawn Street, Weston, Wisconsin, 54476. Property owner, William Hart, 179591 Mission Lake Road, Eland, Wisconsin, 54427. Location of rezone request, area proposed to be rezoned is located west of the intersection of Mission Lake Road and State Highway 153. Request, the petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of William Hart to amend the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 17, zoning code to rezone lands from general agriculture to rural estate, located in part of the northwest quarter of Section 33 and part of the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 32, Township 27 North, Range 10 East, Town of Elderon. Parent parcel is listed. Areas to be rezoned to rural estate is described as Lot 1 in the preliminary CSM. Public hearings, Town of Elderon Town Board meeting met April 15th, 2025, and the Marathon County Environmental Resource Committee is meeting today, April 29th, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. Existing zoning districts, general agriculture, and it is going to rural estate. Go down, the conclusions of law are found in the staff report. The rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose intent of the town's comprehensive plan as indicated by the town's resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resource Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
All right, does anybody have questions for staff? No questions. Okay, then I will ask, is there anybody present that is willing, that wants to speak for item 5A1? I'll ask one more time. Does anybody want to speak for item 5A1? Okay, does anybody want to speak against item 5A1? One more time, does anybody want to speak against item 5A1? And I will call once. Is there anybody that would like to speak as interested for item 5A1? Okay, seeing none, I will declare that this hearing is closed. The committee will deliberate. Supervisor Draybeck.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to make a motion to approve the rezone of William Hart from general agriculture to rural estate based on the findings of fact as presented by staff and conclusions of law. Also, the town approved it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Supervisor Seefeld, the second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5A2, the petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of Warren Buss, General Agriculture to Urban Residential, Town of Holton.
All right. One sec. I think I got the wrong one up here. There we go. All right, Warren Buss petition to rezone land staff report, April 29th, 2025, Environmental Resource Committee. Petitioners Tim Vreeland, 6103 Dawn Street, Weston, Wisconsin, 54476. Property owners Warren Buss, 105247 Fence Road, Abbotsford, Wisconsin, 54405. Area proposed to be rezoned is located just east of the intersection of Rosendale Ave and Fence Road. The request, the petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of Warren Buss to amend the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 17 Zoning Code to rezone lands from general agriculture to urban residential located in part of the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 15, Township 29 North, Range 2 East, Town of Holton. Parent parcel is listed in the staff report. Area proposed to be rezoned from general agriculture to urban residential is described as Lot 1 of the preliminary CSM. Public meetings. The Town of Holton Town Board meeting met April 9th, 2025. Marathon County Environmental Resource Committee meeting is meeting today, April 29th, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. Again, it would be going from general agriculture to urban residential. The town, on April 9th, 2025, the Town of Holton Town Board recommended approval to the Marathon County Environmental Resource Committee. Conclusions of law are found in the staff report. CPZ recommendations. The rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to the size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan as indicated by the town's resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of facts, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resource Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for staff? Supervisor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chad, I'm curious as to the reasoning why this is being chosen for an urban residential district. If it's less than 1 acre, it seems that it wouldn't really meet that requirements, but or I guess that purpose. I guess I just wanted to know like the reason why for that.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I turned my mic off for a sec. Urban residential, it would actually fit the size requirements for urban residential. They want to basically split off this parcel from the larger parcel, and the size that they had chose urban residential would be the size requirement that they would fit into.
Hey, any other questions? Okay, no questions. So I will ask, is there anybody online or in the audience that would like to speak in favor of item 5A2?
I'm here, but I own a piece of land. If you have any questions or whatever, I don't have to say nothing, I won't.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak for item 5A2? Does anybody wish to speak against item 5A2? One more time, is there anybody that wishes to speak against item 5A2? I will call once. Is there anybody that wishes to speak as interested for item 5A2? Okay, if nobody wishes to speak, I will declare this hearing closed. Now the committee will deliberate. What are the wishes? Supervisor Seefeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion for the petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of Warren Bush to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17 Code to rezone land from GA General Ag to UR Urban Residential in the town of Holton and to pass conclusions of law and forward it to the county board.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Supervisor Schoenborn with a second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item 5A3, the petition of James Erickson on behalf of Daniel Anderson, General Agriculture and Light Industrial to Light Industrial, General Agriculture and Low Density Residential, Town of Spencer.
All right, so Daniel Anderson petition to rezone land, staff report April 29, 2025 for the Environmental Resource Committee. Petitioner is James Erickson, PLS 252 South Central Ave, Marshfield, Wisconsin, 54449. Property owners Daniel Anderson, 205681 State Highway 13, Spencer, Wisconsin, 54479. The area proposed to be rezoned is located on State Highway 13, just south of the intersection of Black Country Road and State Highway 13. Request the petition of James Erickson on behalf of Daniel Anderson to amend the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone lands from general agriculture and light industrial to light industrial, general agriculture, and LDR, low-density residential, located in that part of the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 16, Township 26 North, Range 2 East, Town of Spencer. Parcel numbers are listed in the staff report. Areas to be rezoned to general agriculture is described as Lot 1. Area to be rezoned to LDR, low-density residential, is described as Lot 2. And areas to be rezoned to light industrial is described as Lot 3 on preliminary CSM. Town of Spencer Town Board meeting met April 7th, 2025. Marathon County Environmental Resource Committee is meeting today, April 29th, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. Existing zoning districts are general agriculture and light industrial. Proposed districts are general agriculture and light industrial and LDR, low-density residential. Conclusions of law are found in the staff report. The town of Spencer did recommend approval on April 7th, 2025 to the Marathon County's Environmental Resource Committee. Conclusions of law and staff recommendations. The rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan and as indicated by the town's resolution. Based on the information provided, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the zoning criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resource Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for staff or comments? Okay, no questions or comments. I will now ask, is there anybody that wishes to speak for item 5A3? One more time, is there anybody that wishes to speak for item 5A3? Okay, is there anybody that wishes to speak against item 5A3? Is there anybody that wishes to speak against item 5A3? Okay, one time, is there anybody that wishes to speak as interested in item 5A3? Okay, hearing none, I will declare that this petition is closed, and the committee will deliberate. What's your wishes? Supervisor Drabek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd make a motion to approve the rezone of David Anderson from general agriculture and light industrial to light industrial, general agriculture, and low-density residential, based on the finding of facts as presented by staff, conclusions of law, and the town's approval.
Yeah, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Supervisor DeBrew with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are on to item 5A4, the petition of Jay Leinbach on behalf of Sunrise Services LLC, farmland preservation to commercial in the town of Brighton.
All right, so Sunrise Services LLC petition to rezone land, staff report April 29th, 2025, Environmental Resource Committee. Petitioner J. Leinbach, 216109 State Highway 13, Unity, Wisconsin, 54488. Property owners, Sunrise Services LLC, 216109 State Highway 13, Unity, Wisconsin, 54488. Area proposed to be rezoned is located at the intersection of State Highway 13 and Town Hall Road. Request, the petition of Jay Leinbach on behalf of Sunrise Services LLC to amend the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone lands from farm preservation to commercial described as Lot 1 of CSM 1512268-44, located in the north half of the fractional northwest quarter and the south half of the fractional northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 27 North, Range 2 East, Town of Brighton, area to be rezoned to commercial, is described as Lot 1 of the preliminary CSM. Parcel is listed. Public hearings, the Town of Brighton Town Board met April 8th, 2025. The Marathon County Environmental Resource Committee is meeting today, April 28th, 2025. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. Existing zoning district is farmland preservation zoning. Going to commercial. On April 8th, 2025, the Town of Brighton Town Board recommended approval to the Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee. Conclusions of law are in the staff report. The rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan as indicated by the town's resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of facts, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears that the rezone request meets all the criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ recommend that the Environmental Resource Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments for staff? Supervisor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Shad, I noticed on question, I think it's 9H, it's not listed if this was in a DATCAP AA program. Do you know if that information is? Yeah, like it just says it's, like there's no, a check mark boxed in 9H. asking
Oh,
if
are
it's-
you referring to the petition?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
let me pull that up here quick.
I was just kind of curious if it was in one of the DATCAP programs.
All right, so this parcel, we check with our conservation staff when we do farm pres rezones. The parcel is not involved in farm preservation,
Okay.
the actual agreements. It's just currently, right now, it's just zoned farm preservation.
Great. I guess for this one, I just wanted to make a follow-up comment too. So typically when I see like a rezone from farm preservation to something else, I get a little bit nervous inside, like, it's our role to grow the farmland preservation case. But in this case, it's actually, like, it actually makes sense. The land is very isolated. I think the petitioner did a fairly good job of describing what's going on, so I applaud the petitioner, and this is one of those cases where I think this is like a great use of switching from farmland preservation to something else. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, so now we will ask, is there anybody online or in the room that would like to speak for item 5A4? One more time, is there anybody that wishes to speak for item 5A4? Is there anybody that wishes to speak against item 5A4? One more time, is there anybody that wishes to speak against 5A4? And I will call once, is there anybody that wishes to speak as interested in 5A4? Okay, hearing none, I will consider this hearing closed, and the committee will deliberate. What are your wishes? Supervisor Seefeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion for the petition of Jay Leenbach on, if I'm pronouncing that right, on behalf of Sunrise Service LLC to amend the code, General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17, code to rezone land from FP Farm Preservation to C Commercial, described in Outlot 1 in the town of Brighton, and to pass the conclusions of law and forward it to the county board.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Supervisor Drabek with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last one, item 5A5, the petition of Chris Fieri on behalf of David and Kristen Gruna, general agriculture to rural residential in the town of Eldron.
All right, we have David and Kristen Gruna, petition to rezone land, staff report, April 29th, 2025, Environmental Resources Committee. Petitioner Chris Fury, 5310 Willow Street, Weston, Wisconsin, 54476. Property owners are David and Christine Gruna, 213965 Lakefront Drive, Hatley, Wisconsin, 54440. Location, area proposed to be rezoned is located near the end of Lakefront Drive. Request, the petition of Chris Fury on behalf of David and Christina Gruna to amend the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone lands from general agriculture to rural residential, described as part of Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 10349, recorded in Volume 2 of Certified Survey Maps on page 172, located in part of the southwest quarter of the fractional northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 27 North, Range 10 East, Town of Elderon. Area to be rezoned to RR rural residential is described as Lot 1 of the preliminary CSM. Parent parcel is listed in the staff report. Town of Elderon Town Board meeting, they did meet February 4th, 2025. Marathon County Environmental Resource Committee meeting is today, April 29th, 2025. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. Existing zoning district is general agriculture. Proposed zoning district is rural residential. On February 4th, 2025, the Town of Elderon Town Board recommended approval to the Marathon County's Environmental Resource Committee. Conclusions of law can be found in the staff report. Staff recommendations, the rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan as indicated by the town's resolution. Based on the information provided, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resource Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
All right, does anybody have any questions or comments for staff? Okay, no questions or comments. I will call. Is there anybody that is, wishes to speak for item 5A5? Well, once again, is there anybody that wishes to speak for item 5A5? Is there anybody that wishes to speak against item 5A5? One more time, is there anybody that wishes to speak against item 5A5? Okay, one time, is there anybody that wishes to speak as interested for 5A5? Hey, no comments, so I will declare this hearing closed, and the committee will once again deliberate. What are your wishes? Supervisor Seefeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion for the petition of Chris Fury on behalf of Dave and Christine Gruna to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone land from GA General Agriculture to RR Rural Residential in the town of Elderon and to pass the conclusions of law and forward it to the county board.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Supervisor Schoenborn with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item 5B, review and possible recommendations of county board for its consideration. Town zoning changes pursuant to 60.62, parent 3, Wisconsin stats. 5B1, Town of Wausau, A1/80 agriculture district to commercial district, agriculture district to commercial light manufacturing district.
All right, so this one's very similar to the county the county process. Only the public hearing aspect of it is handled at the town level. So they have supplied us with the information that we require. It essentially needs to go through this committee and the county board for it to be effective. But this is the town of Wausau. They're going from the A1/80 district to the commercial/light manufacturing district. And the information, I can pull it up here, but it's also in your packet.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for staff? Supervisor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a general question. So the request of the purpose is to install a greenhouse. What is the purpose, or why would you need to rezone for just installing a greenhouse?
That's a good question. I can't really speak to their zoning code.
Sure.
I'm not too familiar with it. I just know it went through their process, and that's something that they must be requiring.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Would anybody like to make a motion? Supervisor Seefeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion for the town of Wausau A180 Agriculture District to CM Commercial Light Manufacturing District.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Supervisor Drabeck with the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5B2, Town of Wausau Commercial Light Manufacturing District to A120 Residential District.
Same thing as the one prior. They've supplied us with the information that we require. It's found in your guys' your packets. So again, this just needs approval from this committee and then a forwarding onto the county board.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments or want to make a motion? Supervisor Seefeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion for the town of Wausau from CM Commercial Light Manufacturing District to A-120 Residential District.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Supervisor DeBrew with the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're on to item 5C1. I believe that has been pulled from the agenda. Yes. Okay, so item 5C2, amendments to County Code of Ordinances as to forfeiture and cash deposit for parks, recreation, and forestry sections. Director Polly can speak to this.
Thank you. I actually think C1 didn't get pulled. Is that what you just said, Rick? Why? Oh, I missed that, sorry. Just because it didn't pass Park Commission? Because Park Commission still wanted it discussed at ERC. I don't know. Is that the case?
Go ahead, Supervisor Seefeld.
Thank you. The amendment for the beer garden, we talked about it, and we voted for the ordinance, and it got voted down.
Correct.
Correct. Do you want any discussion on this, seeing we have to wait for city council tonight is going to review some of this?
Well, I think that was, so to clarify what our discussion was today at Parks Commission is, I gave a background to what this was reflecting and where it had
Okay.
come from, and we were still going to, we're not asking for the ordinance to be amended at this point. We were just trying to get feedback as to whether the county wanted to move forward. So the Park Commission voted that they were not interested in it, but a couple of the Park Commission members, I remember Supervisor Mask, had said to vote on it just so that it was discussed by more people at the ERC. But it is something, so I don't know if we want to discuss it, I guess.
I don't see any reason why we can't just open it up for discussion.
Okay. So I can give a little bit of background, and it's kind of a long, I'll make it as quick as possible. But this is a project that our department is not bringing forward necessarily as staff. And so it's been kind of in a different order than what we would typically do as far as if we have a new program, we usually put that together, do work on it, and then bring it forward for any of the requirements that it changes. This is something that actually was brought forward by a city council member wanting this program to be started in the city. And it was really taken to the Parks Committee with just some relative background of what it would entail. We had met with, staff had met very briefly with Milwaukee County as well as De Pere on their beer gardens. Milwaukee County's is very successful and brings in a few $1 million in revenue. It's meant to be a neighborhood kind of gathering, get together as an option for a community. It's a limited hours, 2 to 3 hours, maybe once a week, once a month, once a summer. And the city council had talked a lot about the city parks, but also talked about marathon parks. So that's how the county parks get brought in and why it was presented to the Park Commission today and put on this. And it's usually put on this order because we meet on the same day. Otherwise, it's a month difference. So the city council or the city parks committee had forwarded this on to their human resources, or I'm sorry, their Public Health and Safety Committee, who is forwarding it to the City Council to talk about tonight and a 3-2 vote. We have not done a lot of more research on this program because if it's something that's not desired by either the county or the city, then we're not going to put the time in to do it. And as far as our staff and our department goes, if it is something that's desired, we will do the work to put that information together as to what it would look like, what the liability would be, what the cost might be to the county, what our potential revenue would be to both city and the county. But it's a discussion, it was discussion today and it will be at City Council tonight. The only way that this could be done with our department is by this ordinance revision, because there's a state statute that allows cities and counties to allow their staff to sell fermented malt beverages in the parks and open spaces. This isn't necessarily, if you do this ordinance or the city does this ordinance, it's not particular to Parks Department. It would be for any department. So if your sheriff's office wanted to do a fish boil and have beer that they're selling, they could do that under this ordinance, same with fire department, those kind of things. This is just a part of how it would be, it has to be done if it is desired that you still want the beer garden type thing, it can go out to RFP, and then there's a lot more regulations if a private company were to do these as far as fencing requirements, liquor license requirements, off-site requirements that they would have to go through. So this is something that many of the communities have done through the state statute to, as a revenue generation, as a program for their community to do. So the Park Commission talked about it this afternoon, and a couple of different discussions. One is tonight at the City Council. If the City Council doesn't move forward with this, which I agree that I understand there probably will be some major discussion on this, then I don't know that our staff would put any time into it to do it at the county parks either. The only 2 county parks that I see this really ever happening in would be Marathon Park or Bluegill Bay Park, because they're surrounded by neighborhoods. And the idea of these beer gardens, such as Milwaukee County and De Pere have, is that it's in a area where people walk to. It's a community gathering place that isn't necessarily a special event. It's meant for the neighborhoods, and so therefore, like, Milwaukee travels around their county throughout the year. So if the city doesn't move forward with it, I don't know that we would on a county level either, unless as a county supervisors you'd like to see this happen, then we can definitely do it separate and have it at the county as well. If the city does pass it tonight, we will look at what that might do or put together that business plan. Like we told the Parks Committee and the Public Health and Safety, is that we are very, very busy this summer with projects and the limited staff that we have. So if this is a desire that they would like us to try this, then we will put one, maybe two together and see how it would go. But it's not something that we as a department are necessarily pushing for at the moment. But if it's something that our elected officials would like to see, which is how this is brought forward, we'll go forward with that. The Parks Committee did discuss it, Commission did discuss it today, though, as Supervisor Seefeld said, and did vote it down. They just didn't feel that any of our departments really need to be in the business of selling alcohol, even if it's for just a community gathering, and didn't want to move forward with it at this time. However, if the city did pass it tonight and I did move forward with it on the city, then they would see it come back to the Park Commission for further discussion if they wanted to talk about it at that point. So Supervisor Seefeld, did I summarize that? Okay.
I think you did a very good job at summarizing it, so. Yeah, it was discussed at our park commission meeting, and there was a couple supervisors that were in online that were not in favor of selling alcohol in a family situation at a park. So we turned it down. We'll wait and see what the city council does. And if they do, like Jamie said, if they do pass it, we'll probably bring it to the county board and see if the county wants to pass it for the same reason. So that's all I have.
The comments I would have, personally, I would not be in favor of this. At this point, it'd be really hard if we don't even know how we would go about it to create a business plan that would show us that we're going to gain revenue from this. I watched the recording of the April 21st Wausau Public Health and Safety Committee. During that, it was the police chief seemed fairly clear that he was not in favor of another avenue for people to obtain alcohol. They asked a bar owner what their thoughts were, a local bar owner, and their comment was in the summertime, any church picnic or any other event, they see their outside patios empty. It affects their business. On a microloan committee I'm on, we're constantly talking about how tough of a gig it is in the Wausau area for bars and restaurants to survive nowadays, especially after COVID for some reason. So I wouldn't be in favor of, say, the county promoting something that would potentially take business away from our businesses that are trying to survive in today's world. The last reason we ask our constituents to help fund programs to help broken families, many of them due to substance abuse. It just to me seems very bad optics. If we're paying to fix the problem, it kind of looks like we're helping contribute to the problem by selling alcohol at family events. So that would be my 2 cents for what it's worth. Any other questions or comments on this? None? Okay. So then I guess now we can move on to item 5C2, amendments to County Code of Ordinances as to forfeitures and cash deposits for parks, recreation, and forestry sections.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in your packet, you saw a spreadsheet that has some highlighted items in it. There's only 2 in the forestry chapter and a few in the Chapter 19, the parks section. So at the last county board meeting, or maybe 2 county board meetings now, the county board approved some ordinance updates that we had where we were doing some housekeeping items to our ordinances and making things consistent. And it came to my attention from our recreation deputies that work with our department that with those updates, there were a few new ordinances that don't have fees set to them, and then there were a few that got renumbered that we needed to make sure we amended. And since these two lists are at the back of each of these ordinances, talking with Corporation Counsel, this needs to be updated in our ordinances as well because it is a section. Now, when you see these numbers, the Park Commission is the one who sets the deposit, which is the right column. And that is, these amounts were based on similar ordinance violations that had already been set and put in that fee schedule. The left column is just a calculation that is not under the control of the Park Commission, that's based on like court fees and stuff like that. So if anything on the right column wanted to be adjusted or changed, that's what the committees would have the ability to do. But these were recommended today from the Park Commission to be brought forward and put into our ordinances.
Okay, is this something that we are taking action on today?
Yes.
We are. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments? Supervisor Drabek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering on this one, it was like, I'm trying to see what page it's on here. I think it's 117. It says park smoke within 50 feet of prohibited area. Can you just explain that, what that means?
Yeah, so years ago, this just hasn't been updated in there, but years ago, the county board approved and the city council approved an ordinance that prohibits smoking within 50 feet of a play area, playground, swimming pool, playing field. It doesn't prohibit smoking in your parks in total, just 50 feet within those specific areas.
Do you think maybe that should say like smoking or something like so you can, I mean, I didn't know if I'm at a campfire or, you know, just.
Yeah, we can change that wording in there or clarify it. I think all of the sheriff's deputies have this list and what it means in their list of citations that they give out. So I think they have more detail that they go off of, but I can work with Corporation Counsel.
Thank you.
I would just note, sorry, Mr. Chair, these are kind of the brief descriptions of the ordinances. The ordinances themselves have the full language and the description of what the offense is, so that that ordinance does describe exactly what it prohibits. This is kind of like a shorthand reference so that deputies can, or anyone can really reference and see, okay, this is the violation, what's the associated deposit and forfeiture amount. So the language can certainly be updated if you wish that to happen, but just clarifying that the full language of the ordinance is separately laid out, and I think it does give notice of what's being prohibited.
Thank you for the clarification. Do we have any other questions or comments? Anybody like to make a motion? Supervisor Seifelt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion that we accept the schedule of cash deposits and forfeitures for the county forests and parks.
Okay, we have a motion approved. Do we have a second? Supervisor Crowell, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Item 5D, review and possible action. On to item 6, our educational presentations, outcome monitoring reports, and committee discussions. If there is no objection, I would like to move item 6A3 up to the front, just in case there's anybody watching online, just kind of waiting for this topic. And I'm promised that she's going to be short and sweet today. So, does anybody mind if we move that up? Okay, so we will do item 6A3 first. Update on the animal waste ordinance proposed amendments work group, CPZ.
Good afternoon. Matt Repking is also joining me today, and I promise we'll both be short and sweet. So we just have some quick updates for you all. If you recall, at last month's meeting, we informed you that we had 2 planned animal waste ordinance work group meetings in April, and that we would give the committee an update on how those first 2 meetings went. And for those that still may be catching up with how this work group formed, this work group of about 25 stakeholders, which are mostly farmers from different backgrounds, sizes, programs, this came through recommendations through several open houses we had related to our proposed animal waste ordinance changes. And so we made sure that there was a representation from all different types of groups of farms, which we were able to get, and we really appreciate everyone's time that they put into coming to these couple-hour-long meetings. So I'll go through a quick summary of the first and second meeting, and then Matt may chime in a bit, but then he'll kind of guide you through some of the alternatives that have also been proposed as well. So the first meeting we held at the town of Rietbrock. Thank you to the town for letting us be there with them. In that meeting, we took some time to go through some of the strategic plans that have already been formed for surface water quality in Marathon County. In particular, specific plans for the Big O Plain Reservoir, since we know that's where the most work needs to be done with improvements. So we laid out those backgrounds. We reminded the work group that the changes that are being proposed related to minimizing the spreading of manure on frozen soils, that was not an idea that the current ERC or the Conservation Department had. This is an idea that was laid out in every single plan related to the Big O Plain for the past decades. So that's been one of the top recommendations in every strategic plan done on that water body. So we went through that, and then we also went through TMDL data, that stands for the total maximum daily load. We went through all of the watersheds in the Wisconsin River system in Marathon County. And so the DNR put this data together for the Wisconsin River. It's about a decade ago now, but they spent $3 million collecting it. So it's really solid data, and they have all the data delineated by pie graphs by watershed. So it was great to have those visuals and talk through that with the group. We're also really lucky to have the Wisconsin Valley Improvement Company as part of our work group. They're the professionals who monitor the levels of the Wisconsin River and their reservoirs and all the dams, and so they do lots and lots of data collection as well. So they went through some of their historic and also current data that we provided to the group. Then we also went through some of our Marathon County data that we're continually gathering and continually updating. I know some of the comments have been related to the need for more data collection by Marathon County, but just as a quick reminder, we are monitoring several different spots along the Big O Plain River for total phosphorus. And we also have a lot of volunteer data collection throughout the county. So that, along with WVIC's bi-weekly data, we do feel very confident in the data set that we're working with. And then we went into the long-term DNR data that they've collected as well. We've been connecting with the DNR professionals who are in charge of total phosphorus data in our surface waters, and got information from them, and then also shared that with the group. So, anything else to add about the first meeting, Matt? Feel good.
Pretty good summary of it.
Okay. So yes, we ask people to just stick with us in that first meeting. When you talk about data for a couple hours, you lose people. But I also have to say, before I forget, I am very proud of this work group, because it is challenging to come into a room where you know you're discussing things where some people are adamantly for it and some people are adamantly against it. And on top of that, there are people in the room that have entirely different operations. You know, we have farms with thousands of animals, and we have farms with 20 animals, you know, so very different. And the group was so respectful of each other. Very good attitudes. We laid out just some ground rules for the group to make sure that everyone could have their voice heard, and that everyone would be respectful of each other. And that's exactly what happened. So it was absolutely wonderful and encouraging to see that unfold. So we had our second meeting last week, and we were hoping we could spend a little bit more time to start to get into some alternatives that were proposed. But there were several in the group that really wanted to continue to talk about data sources and make sure that we were looking at the correct data before we made some decisions. So we honestly spent most of the meeting still talking about data, and then we got through the overview of the current proposal that we've been talking about with you all. So, you know, the strategic layout of based on farm size and units, you know, what we would like to do in the months of February and March to limit the runoff of phosphorus into our surface water. So we got through that. And, you know, we're trying to keep these work group meetings to 2 hours because it's very busy people that are doing these. So, you know, 2 hours goes by in the blink of an eye. One thing that we felt came out of the first meeting is everyone is in unity about the need for more enhanced efforts and implementation of nutrient management in Marathon County. We're always proud when we talk about nutrient management here because we really do have a robust nutrient management program, and we have over 60% of our cropland acres covered in nutrient management plans. So that is already double Wisconsin's average by county of nutrient management. So we're doing good, but could we do better? Yes, absolutely. So everyone in the work group agrees that that's an area that we need to somehow work into the ordinance or think of a creative way to use that as part of the solution. And then we started discussing some various buffer initiatives. So we talked about buffers with you all here, so it's not a surprise for you all to hear that the group also likes the idea of somehow working buffers into a compromise or a solution together. So that was our first two meetings. And I know two of you were at those meetings. So before we start discussing the alternatives, maybe it's a good time to pause and ask if there's any questions or comments from ERC participants in the work group.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions or comments for Supervisor Schoenboder?
Where was that second meeting held at? Same place, Town of Reed Rock?
We actually held the second meeting at our new conference center at the Lakeview campus, just to see how that would work, because there was a couple folks that thought it may be helpful to have a virtual option, which in the conference center, they do have those really nice virtual room kits where people can just join via video and microphone. And when we're out in the rural townships, as much as we love being out there, there's just not enough internet juice for us to hold those virtual meetings. So it was kind of entertaining to have everyone from all parts of the county roll into the Lakeview campus and be like, holy cow, you guys are buried in the middle of Wausau down here. So, but I mean, it was good, other than everyone looked like they had been on a journey to find us when they got there. So
I appreciate it, thank you.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Supervisor Drabeck?
Thank you. I was just wondering, was it out on an email that everybody got, that the meeting and where it was at and everything that the whole committee got? Because I thought, there, you know, if there had been a few more ERC people there, that would have been helpful, I think.
Okay. Yeah, we did not do that since we knew that you volunteered as tribute in the last meeting, Supervisor Drabeck. But if you would like us to try to get your colleagues to come to a future meeting, I'm happy to remind them of the meeting dates and times.
That'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, we do just need to know if anyone else is coming in the event that we would have a quorum present. So when we do that, we will include a one-sentence reminder saying you must let us know by XYZ date and time so that we can post a quorum. But yes, you're all very welcome to come.
I'm just going to say you could have brought donuts.
That sounds like a good job for you next time. I have a lot of other things I gotta bring, right?
Be careful raising your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right,
Okay.
So we just really started to get into the alternatives proposed at our second meeting. The alternatives that we have were ones that we had from our work group mainly, and ideas that we heard from other people that we've talked to over the last couple months. So we've had quite a few conversations with various farmers, various sizes. And like Kirsty had mentioned, buffers are still something that a lot of people are interested in. So figuring how to get those out in the landscape. Another thing that we proposed is actually looking at practice similar to what we do in the Fenwick Creek pilot project already. So looking at our phosphorus index for nutrient management plans, and, the state has a phosphorus index of 6, so that's about 6 pounds of phosphorus per acre per year that can come off the land. And can we get that down to a lower level? Can we get to 4, 3? We already have some farms that are involved in the program that we work with now that are 3 or less. So while 6 is the state average, can we do better and have an incremental reduction, but also get down below 3 or less? Also, we've heard some different ideas on if there is manure being applied on soils in the winter, can we look at what kind of ground covers out there? Higher residue amounts, so there is something there to kind of limit that runoff. Not necessarily a buffer per se on some of these fields, but increased residue either through cover crops, corn stover that's out there, or through leaving hay standing. Just something to kind of catch that, slow it down, retain it a little bit better. Like Kirsty had mentioned, all farms having nutrient management plans regardless of if you have animals, if you're a crop farm. Everybody contributes a little bit. There's always runoff that's going to occur from a field. It's just farming's a leaky system, so can we minimize those leaks as much as possible? And then the last thing was that we've had discussions on is changing our original proposal to have animal numbers in there, that we set a threshold essentially of above this number, there would be potentially a ban or a limitation or some type of winter spreading reduction required. So that's kind of where we're at with things, and as we work through our work group, I'm sure there'll be other things that are brought up, but this is kind of our alternatives that are proposed at this time list.
Okay, anybody else have any more questions or comments? All righty, thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to item 6A1 now, update on the Solid Waste Management Board Strategic Plan. Director Hagenbutcher, I believe you've got this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, we'll be very brief on the strategic plan update just because there's another item on here that may be a little bit more time consuming. So consistent with a comprehensive plan, the Solid Waste Department doesn't need a strategic plan by code, but we've had one for quite some time, and we're coming up to the end, being 2025. It's the last year for this. We've brought this up with our Solid Waste Management Board, and we've discussed what options exist for modifying this. Do the goals still fit? We've brought up comments about protecting groundwater, protecting air quality. Let's take a look at where we're at with economic opportunities for landfill operations. So as I page down here and try to find our spot, we look at the goals and we're just kind of questioning, are these goals still applicable? Should we modify them? Should we tweak them a little bit? So I've been fortunate enough to have some excellent folks in CPZ that have been willing to help us out with this planning effort. So we'll be doing some drafts over the next couple of months here, and then hopefully bring back some different strategic goals, just slightly revised and looking at these that are more applicable to what we're dealing with right now. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. Like I said, I was trying to be quite brief on this one. So,
Okay, do we have any questions? Supervisor Kroll.
Dave, it's just more of a general question. How do you feel that you've achieved, I guess, in most of these objectives? Some of them are very broad, maybe not with an end goal in mind, but some are, I would say, slightly like maybe more concrete. So I guess I just want to get a sense of where you're feeling on this.
Looking at these goals, I think it's something that we consistently look at as, weighing did we meet the mission? Did we meet the objective? I think there's a couple of things that just are sort of standing in our way, some challenges and hurdles that we're not able to get over to complete some of these activities. Some of them relative to, financial situations that this committee is well aware of. So, I would say it's a 50-50 as we go across these goals of us being able to meet them and then, not being able to meet them. So that's kind of where I think they're at.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, now we can move on to your next one. Item 6A2, leachate management for solid waste, draft plan for clean water fund application.
All right, so leachate. So everybody knows, solid waste department, Marathon County provide disposal, landfill disposal. Here's a picture of it, of our Bluebird Ridge Recycling and Disposal Facility, 30-acre cell that provides disposal capacity for municipalities, businesses, organizations, many folks in our area. And what happens when we build a landfill is we do it to contain the fluids. We build it to contain the liquid wastewater, any stormwater that touches the trash, anything that's leaking down through. You can see we've got a big liner system on the bottom, and we collect that dirty water, and we have to treat it at a treatment plant. It can't just be discharged into a nearby stream. It can't just be left abandoned. We need to pull that water out, and we need to treat it. Otherwise, it's going to contaminate our groundwater. So the current challenge we're running into, it's not a surprise. We're not hiding it that there are PFAS in landfill leachate. We are passive receivers of PFAS. It's not like we're taking PFAS waste and putting it into our landfill. Everyday household items, including jackets and deodorant and fast food wrappers and probably my boots, have PFAS on it. These water-resistant items, these long-lasting forever chemicals, and it accumulates in the landfill, and then it concentrates in the leachate, and we have to find something to do with the leachate. So right now, the challenge is finding a treatment plant that will help us. So here's kind of the background on PFAS for those that might not be aware. Per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, very bioaccumulate in the environment. They last forever unless someone can develop a really good destruction technology that's viable. And right now we're dealing with regulatory concerns. There are regulations set for water treatment plants and wastewater treatment plants for drinking water standards and surface water discharge. There's no regulation set for landfills yet, but we send our leachate, our wastewater, we send to treatment plants. So that's where we grow, or that's where we come into these issues. So here's where we've been in the past. So for nearly 40 years, we worked with a paper mill, a local paper mill. It was able to take the leachate and treat it. It was a great working relationship. They were 15 miles down the road. And in 2019, they approached us and said, hey, you got 3 months to get out. We know there's PFAS in landfill leachate unless you want to indemnify the paper mill against any future liability. Of course, the county wasn't able to do that. So we, access ended, and we started working with a couple of local nearby treatment plants. We started working with Plover, Stevens Point, and Wausau. Then Wausau went through and did a pretty big upgrade to their plant a couple of years ago. And when it came time to reintroduce the leachate back into their new plant, we worked on probably for about a year now, we worked on a very good plan, a pilot project. And I can say the folks at Wausau have been very good to work with, great folks over there. But ultimately, the DNR gave a recommendation and cautioned and said, hey, we have a problem here already. You take leachate, it's going to cause an even greater problem. So don't take it. So that's kind of where we've been at. So our current operating scenario, we can haul a maximum of 4 loads out a day. One load is 6,600 gallons. We can take 4 to Plover. That's our limit. We can take 2 to Stevens Point. That's a limit at that facility. We do about 10 million gallons a year, and it's costing us about $1 million a year, about $5 per ton from average of 200,000 tons per year. So if we need to haul out more than 6 loads, we really don't have a home for it right now. It's going to have to just sit where it is, and we're going to have to watch closely and monitor our levels to make sure that it doesn't accumulate on our liner systems. So you can see the difference in hauling costs. These are costs incurred for us to haul to the various different treatment plants. Like I said, 4 going to Plover, 2 going to Stevens Point. literally double of what it would cost us to haul to Wausau if that guidance from the state hadn't been given to Wausau. So we've, the question might come up, well, why not other treatment plants? There's other paper mills, there's other smaller treatment plants. When I wrote this, we had 7. We now have 8 treatment plants that have turned us away. And, we went to as far east as Green Bay, and we thought, well, they're so big, they must be able to take 25,000 gallons a day. Like, that shouldn't be much. And they said, we're not helping anybody outside of our service area. We're helping those that are local. So it's not like we can just haul it further and solve the problem. So the treatment plants, of course, I don't blame them. I've been in this industry because I care about the environment. They have effluent limits, and the state has set these effluent limits. Typically, it's 8 parts per trillion, where they don't want to discharge. They don't want their wastewater to go out into a nearby stream or river and have a higher concentration than what the state allows. Otherwise, they're going to be in violation. So we're running into this situation where we're depending on each other, but there's really this isolated approach from the state of Wisconsin that's saying, hey, wastewater treatment plants solve the problem, landfills solve the problem. They're not looking at us together. They're not looking at us as a one entity trying to solve our community's waste and wastewater needs. So the little bit about the systemic problem, we're not looking at it holistically. And we're both passive receivers. Neither of us have contributed. Neither of us have taken PFAS-laden waste. It's simply a culmination of everyday household materials getting together in the same place. So something that needs to be brought up as well that even really isn't being considered yet is the current practice for biosolids. When a wastewater treatment plant takes in any wastewater, at the end of the process, they have 2 products. They have the clean effluent that goes back into a river, and they have biosolids that they spread on a field. These biosolids are typically seen as very high quality and great for soil and great to grow crops. But here's the caveat is that these could have PFAS in it if that treatment plant is taking any kind of waste that might have PFAS. So EPA released a guidance document that said anything over 1 part per billion may be at an increased risk. Now, this was just guidance. This wasn't a state or a federal law or anything like that. But looking at Wisconsin and looking at local treatment plants, not just here, but like across Wisconsin and across all small treatment plants, they're averaging between 10 and 30. So it's like, well, we're never going to be able to reach that 1 part per billion, which then says, okay, we're going to have to put all of our biosolids back into a landfill. Well, the landfill is not going to want to accept it if the treatment plant's not working with them to take their leachate. So it's this how to create this situation where we can sequester the PFAS, right? Because there's no destruction technology that's readily available right now. Destruction technologies are experimental. They're in research phases, and we're looking at this from, okay, we have to sequester it. We have to trap it in the landfill somehow and hope then that it doesn't come out in the leachate. So we're not the only ones with this problem. Portage County, Shawano County, Lincoln County, Adams County, they all have solid waste departments. 2 of them have open landfills, 2 of them have closed landfills. And we're looking at this from a regionalization standpoint. Can we work together to solve this problem? Because they have closed landfills that, the older the garbage, the higher concentration that they'll have for PFOS and PFOA, the 2 compounds that are being regulated. Because those were phased out in the 80s and 90s, and now today's modern landfills are not quite as terrible. So we see this as an opportunity. Could we be leaders in this? Could we support our community? Could we support it as a region, just like we do with our landfill? We provide disposal capacity for Portage and Shawano. We've signed a 30-year agreement with them way back in 2003 that goes till 2032. And we're looking at this very similarly. So the treatment technologies that exist right now across the U.S., we've evaluated a couple of them. We've evaluated reverse osmosis, ion exchange, and granular activated carbon. And we've also evaluated another one called foam fractionation, where it's essentially a physical treatment process where it agitates and you're able to scrape the foam off. So as we evaluate this, we have to look at, okay, what are the costs for treatment? What are the costs for capital to implement a treatment plant on site? And then do we have to move that liquid off site in the future? So if we do ion exchange or granular activated carbon or foam fractionation, we're going to need to still haul that liquid somewhere for further treatment. If we went reverse osmosis, we can completely do it on site, and we can discharge into an infiltration basin. So this is what we've been looking at as the preferred option, just because it's a higher capital cost initially, but we're not going to have that long-term constantly trying to haul off site into the future. So here's the big slide, $12 million. This is what we would be looking at if we did it as a regional facility. Now, if we did it just to provide Marathon County, we could probably take, I would estimate probably $3 or $4 million off that. Now, that said, we want to provide capacity for ourselves to grow. Do we provide capacity so that we can operate this treatment plant to accept outside industrial sources that we can then treat through a potential revenue stream, create an additional revenue stream? You'll also notice that we have a pretty significant contingency in here just because this plant is, 2-3 years down the road, if done correctly. So annual operating costs, pretty similar, just some estimates on what we could potentially charge per gallon for industrial sources as well. So as we look at this, what we're evaluating is, we haven't been sticking money aside for a project like this. We have long-term care and closure funding, but that's specifically set aside for that. We haven't been setting money aside for dealing with the PFAS issue. So if we do this, we're looking at an environmental loan. Or if there's any other unique strategies for paying this, we'll talk about a few of them in a little bit. But we would look at this environmental loan and we would still have to pay it back. So we would see this increase in tipping fee pretty significant at $5 a ton. Then we run into, okay, are we going to lose tonnage? Are we going to be in competition with other landfills that may not be dealing with this to the extent that we are? So the Clean Water Fund program it's Clean Water Fund program or the State Revolving Fund. It's a program that's offered in Wisconsin for many, many different municipalities for their water treatment utilities. So we submitted an intent to apply in October. We submitted our draft plan for this RO system on March 31st, and the full application would be due in 2025 in October. So a couple of the key dates. So we would have to have a public comment period on this to discuss the project. We would need to have a public hearing, likely sometime in June. And then it would come back to ERC and have to go through full county board to receive a resolution to approve this application that this is the project that we're going to do. Something else to consider is there is principal forgiveness opportunities, and there's value right now in emerging contaminants. And that's the big one, is this is an emerging contaminant, and there's been money set aside for this specifically. And the question might come up, well, why now? Why do we need to why do we need to build something before regulations really push us into that, into that situation? Well, there's a big piece of pie right now that we can grab from. In the future, when everybody starts having to do this, that piece of pie, we may end up with a much smaller slice. So a little bit of detail on the Clean Water Fund program. We feel that our maximum benefit could be upwards of $2 million in principal forgiveness and emerging contaminant funding. So that would be something that we could, definitely benefit from. And there's a couple of other additional funding opportunities here. So obviously we have our renewable natural gas plant, and we're hoping to bring some additional revenue into our solid waste facility via that process. But that could be used to help offset the water treatment. There's also federal funding and state support. We did submit an application for congressionally directed spending for fiscal year 26, and some other ideas are the Innovation Grant and the State Building Commission. Lastly, key policy considerations is we need to recognize this as a systemic issue. We need to look at it holistically, not just solving our problem, but solving the problem for the entire community. The environmental ethics of sending our leachate down to another community and then just, having them treated at a different location. So this is our solid waste department, our landfill, and our community's landfill, solving it in-house, trying to find a solution needs to be evaluated. So regionally and, working with the neighboring counties, how do we evaluate that approach and addressing the closed landfills? I don't know of any other closed landfills in our area other than the Holtz-Krause site, which I don't think is generating liquid at this time. But also being a voice and being there for a regulatory approach. I sit on Wisconsin DNR's External Advisory Committee for PFAS, and this is definitely a topic of conversation, and it's receiving quite a bit of attention. Supervisor Robinson, for those who know him as well, he's been very involved in the PFAS management throughout the state as well. So at this time, I'll open it up for any questions.
Any questions, comments? Supervisor Kroll.
Thank you, Dave. That was a great presentation. This is a huge concept and project here. So, I mean, I guess I just wanted to, you lay out some thoughts. So the first would be staff time and employee expertise. I know in the past we've talked about, is this a specialized job that needs to be created for something like this? How are you thinking about staffing for this?
Yeah, we would look at likely 3 staff members. I think that this technology is proven. It's been done throughout the U.S. quite a bit. There's reverse osmosis plants are not anything brand new. I truly believe Marathon County staff would be able to run the plant and operate it and maintain it.
Okay. Follow up, Mr. Chair. So a lot of how this discussion was revolved around the state or federal levels kind of ping-ponging us in a specific direction. So is there any input that we can provide to the state or federal level that can help us alleviate some of these concerns? That either like in regards to transporting or collaborating with our partners in counties, like I guess anything like that?
Yeah, there's a few bills that are going around right now, and I know there's a public hearing on one a little bit later, I believe in the middle of May, that is looking at grant opportunities for installing infrastructure that is going to help manage this problem. So I think any support relative to that bill is going to be important. I know I just saw some emails circulating on that today, and I believe Supervisor Robinson was also planning to be at that public hearing to discuss the possibilities.
Sure. And then just, I guess, like a final comment, I feel Marathon County is poised to be a leader in specifically this to our neighboring counties. So while the details are not fleshed out, I would love to hear more about being a regional center for wastewater and for this leachate. So I guess I can open it up, but that's just my initial feeling right now.
Chair Gibbs.
Thanks, Dave. I think great presentation. I guess a couple of questions. With the $12 million price tag, what kind of capacity are we building to take outside? Obviously we're building it to clearly take all the leachate that we're generating, but if we're going to be a regional solution, and how does that business model play out, and what's the capacity to take other facilities' leachate?
Yeah, I think when we were looking at the numbers, we know that on an average basis, we generate about 30,000 gallons a day. But there are peak flows throughout our year, like right now when it's springtime and we have a lot of rain, where we can see upwards of 60, maybe 70,000 gallons per day. So when we designed this, we looked at it from a 100,000 gallon per day to kind of give that extra 30-40% capacity, and then we would also need to install something like an equalization tank before it would go into the RO plant, because you want to maintain a nice smooth flow. You don't want it you don't want to send liquid through an RO plant that has high peaks and low lows. You just want it nice and consistent. So tanks, 100 to 150,000 gallon tank on site would then be able to slowly drain into And it would provide that support capacity for additional loads to be brought in and equalize it out.
Just to follow up, have we done any studies as far as what the neighboring municipalities' capacity they need?
Yep.
If we're going to be part of that?
Yeah, the closed landfills are pretty minimal. We're looking at a load a week, maybe, so like 7,000 gallons a week. Some of the other active sites might be a little bit more. We're talking 2-3 loads a day, potentially, but more conversation to come on that. I've only received official letters from the closed landfills that had an interest in partnering with us right now. We're still in conversation with the open sites.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Tom?
Have you talked, excuse me, have you talked to other counties to collaborate with this investment rather than just take it all on from Marathon County?
Yeah, it's been part of the conversation. So specifically with Portage and Shawano being regional partners with us, it's something that we would likely embed into the tipping fee for them. So because they're already bringing garbage, we would just say, hey, to help us fund this project, your tipping fee is going to be X dollars, or it's going to go up, a certain percentage to help us fund the project. Yeah, so that's something that we certainly need to consider. It shouldn't all be put on Marathon's shoulders if it's truly a regional facility, right?
Anybody else? Supervisor Rubio?
Do they have the gallons gone up every year so much?
No, actually, a couple of years ago, we had a year that was 18 million gallons, and because of the cost of transportation, our team has done an extraordinary job of getting this, reducing the amount of leachate that we generate. We've managed to average now for the last 2 years around 10 million gallons, so we were almost double that at one point. But we've been very creative with how we design the landfill. We've been very, very timely in putting soil materials on so that we can shed stormwater rather than generate leachate. We've gone it's one of the top 3 priorities. Environmental compliance, compaction, and reduce leachate. From an operations standpoint, that's been a very, very significant item that we've paid attention to.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, thanks, Dave.
Oh, did we?
Nope. Supervisor Kroll.
So I guess I'm just curious on the next steps. So what are we going to expect as a committee from you, or I guess somebody, or what?
Yeah, so we have a couple of some dates coming up. So we're looking at next month, so the month of May, we're going to have a public comment period that will open up. And then in June, we're hoping to find a date where we can do a public hearing on the project. And, the project would be, right on site at the solid waste facility where we're taking the leachate that we generate, putting it through the RO system, and then putting that back. The clean water would go into an infiltration basin right on site there. Any residuals that would then get recirculated back into the landfill. So the public hearing would be, open and open for comments. That's a criteria that we need to follow for the application to the state. And then in July, we would come back to the Environmental Resources Committee. We would bring the public comments. We would bring any concerns that had come up during that time period, ask for an official approval to submit this application. If we can submit this application by the end of this year, there's high likelihood that we get the funding next year and potentially start building it next year. So this is, could it be ready to go by fall 2026? Maybe, but that'd be pretty aggressive. I would say more likely 2027. So in part of the criteria for this application is also not just an ERC recommendation, but also full county board resolution to move forward with this plan.
Okay. Supervisor Schoenborn.
What is our closest municipality that has a osmosis? Are we talking Green Bay, Appleton area?
We are very unique in that central Wisconsin has been a hot spot for PFAS. And because we're a hot spot and because we've kind of been, I guess, the guinea pigs in having to deal with this situation, we would be likely the first in Wisconsin to have an RO system on the landfill. Yeah. And because we're isolated and we're off-site and we're not connected to a pipeline, I know that there's some other facilities that are connected to a sewer pipeline where they can just do a GAC filter, or they can just do ion exchange and then dump it into the sewer. But, that makes sense because they don't have the treatment costs added to it, right? We still have that treatment cost. So when you look at the different treatment technologies, do we really want to just do, just knock the PFAS out and then still have to truck it, which is, arguably the highest, the highest item on our budget as is, or do we want to treat it fully on site? And then the next question comes up is, okay, PFAS is what we're regulating now. What's going to happen in 5 years? What's the next chemical that they find in the water that we're going to have to try to manage? And then at that point, we make an investment like this, and now the treatment plant doesn't want to take it because we got to take something else out of the leachate. So trying to think, forecast the future is obviously impossible, but just trying our best to plan, and that's really what this is. We're making a decision based off of what's coming down the line. I have a letter from the village of Plover, who currently takes quite a bit of our leachate, and I'll just read a quick comment here. It's unfortunate that due to the limited and high-cost treatment or destruction methods for removing these compounds, treatment facilities are led to source identification and reduction. To ensure and limit liability to the municipality, leachate is one source that can be rejected to protect the utility and potential restrictions or limitations on either the effluent or the biosolids. So they haven't turned us down yet, right? I'm incredibly grateful that Stevens Point and the village of Plover have been so accommodating. But they're going to be doing 2 years of PFAS testing. And once they get done with those rounds, they're going to look at these numbers. They're going to look at their data with the state, evaluate whether or not they need to enter a minimization plan. If they need to enter those minimization plans, then the only other option is source reduction, is cutting us off completely. So it's a process, and we're trying to be proactive about this. We don't want to be in a situation where it's like, hey, you got 2 months to get out, and we haven't done anything, because then it's a real mess.
Have they done any preliminary figures on what the hauling costs are and say what the natural gas income might be as far as offsetting some of these costs?
We haven't dug real deep into what that potential royalty revenue would do to help offset these costs.
Supervisor Kroll.
Well, I actually just wanted to get the administrator's opinion and thoughts on this too, but I see he was reaching for the mic anyway.
But then I reached away. So with respect to the last question, I think the other part that, Dave alluded to with the royalty revenue that we're looking at from the natural gas processing partnership we have, the hope was that that was going to start to offset some of the other non-leachate related challenges we have relative to operating a landfill. That's a tough business, and that's what it is. It's a business. Operating a landfill, there's a private sector that does it, and there's a lot of reasons for the public sector to operate a landfill to ensure that the private sector plays by the same rules that I think we all want the private sector to play by. So in a perfect world, we would want to keep those royalties separate to ensure we have sufficient funding for some of those other things, like, the cost to open a new cell at the landfill is not a small one. It's multiples of millions of dollars, and we're talking about closing a cell. There's those sort of things. So I think my perspective on this is similar to what Dave laid out. This is a process where we want to, at this early stage, maximize the potential available revenue streams, which, to Dave's point, we put in that initial notice of application or notice of potential application for this process, not saying that the county board is going to build one, but should you want to build one, we want to make sure that you have available revenue sources that would mitigate the impact to your other limited revenue streams. I mean, you know, when you talk about what does this engagement look like for the county board, Dave had that slide that talked about when the public hearing would be and when the application would be. I mean, we'd have to talk about how are we going to finance the rest. And as you all know, if you're going to go out and we're going to borrow money to do that, that's a 3/4 vote of the county board. We're also going to have to build it in our capital plan, which you would generally do through the formation of your annual budget. So we tried to, and credit to Dave on this, tried to make sure that those things were available. But if there were an easy answer to this, we would just do that. I think, you know, there was a slide Dave included that referenced the innovation grant fund that the state, that innovation program the state has and the State Building Commission. I think those are things we'd want to also make sure we look at leveraging to, you know, if we're gonna be a regional site for this opportunity, we would be well served, much like the process we did with the Regional Forensic Science Center, to build out a business plan. Who are our likely customers? To your point, Dave referenced what's the likely, he had a slide in there that talked about the cost per load, right? That we could build into that business plan. If, as we move forward, if this is something the county board is interested in doing, we're gonna do it ourselves. We need to transition our business plan to one of, right now, what do we care about? We care about what is the cost of treatment and the trucking cost. We need to transition that business plan to be, what is the treatment cost in terms of capital, personnel? What is the business we need to draw in to make that essentially break even? Otherwise, you have to have a good business plan. Otherwise, effectively, if you're regional and your plan is to be regional and you don't have enough customers, what you can
Your cost per gallon will just go up.
Yeah, what you can charge from somebody else to get them to come here to make it break even, they're gonna go somewhere else. Because otherwise, Marathon County is in a position where we're left subsidizing. If we charge less than the cost to actually do it, we're subsidizing other communities, which I assume, not having this conversation with you, nevertheless, I assume you'd be against that. Rightly so. So it's a very complex thing we'll need to work through over the next several months, but the thought in bringing this to you is, first of all, talk about it again, but also let you know, above all else, we are doing from the staff side what we can to try to identify and preserve the opportunity to tap into those other funding streams that are possible. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but the county board does need to make a decision. If we're ultimately going to go down this path, it's a lot of work.
I assume this isn't gonna go away, this problem. I mean, it's gonna get worse, if anything, with more rules and regulations and less people taking it. So it's something we sort of have to do something with, of some form, regardless, right? And just without waiting too long, so we call their pass down and have no place to take it, you know, then what do we do? So it's something that certainly has to be addressed, I would assume.
No, and I would agree, and I would rather us be in control of our own problems than relying on somebody else to be there for us, because like sometimes they might say no. So, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Ritter, if I could request, we had a schedule change, so we're wondering if we can switch and go to item 5 first and then come back to 4, and there's no objection from staff to switch that around. So.
Any objection from the committee? All right. So we will take care of, jump to item 6A5.
Okay, and then I'm going to kind of switch it on you again because it says 6 and 11, but we're going to start with 11. So we're going to start with Chapter 11, which is on 173 of your packet, and I am going to let Director Polly come up and talk mostly about the changes, but I will, let me get this chapter, Chapter 11, Recreation, Tourism, and Natural Resources. I will just briefly say that we did have quite a few updates to this chapter in the last 10 years, and that's kudos to Director Polly and her team for all the work they've been involved in, and also a big thank you because they did go through in the last couple weeks and get most of this updated for us so that we have a really solid working draft that's just highlighting the amount of stuff that's going on with recreation and tourism in our region. So you will notice there's quite a few additional plans and additional key attractions and things that have been added since the 2016 draft. But I won't go into any of those. She can certainly answer questions too, and we'll take suggestions if there's anything else we're missing from that section. But she did want to discuss with you the issues that we've been workshopping and the goals and objectives, and as well as the comments she got from talking with the Forestry Commission and the Parks Commission today. There it is. Okay.
That's what happens when we jump around now, isn't it?
Thank you. Thank you for looking at this. So I did present these this chapter to both the Park Commission and the Forestry Recreation Committee this afternoon as well to provide any input that they had. We know that this, as we know with all these chapters, they're working documents, so if they have any changes, they'll let us know. But as of today, they did not have any specific updates that they needed or they wanted changed within it. I did go through, as you'll see throughout the chapter, we updated a lot of dates on plans. We added new plans that have been put into works over the last couple of years, like the West Side Master Plan, our River's Edge Trail Master Plan, the Rib Mountain State Park Master Plan was updated since the last time this was done. So we tried to find as much of it. One thing you'll notice is our outdoor recreation plan for the county needs to be updated. It goes through 2024, and it's on my work plan. I just haven't gotten that far yet. But hopefully we'll get that updated before this gets finalized so we can change the dates in there and change anything relative to that. But I see it staying pretty consistent with it. So in the end of the chapter, we talk about issues and then the goals kind of this chapter. There are certain parts of this chapter that both my department and CPZ don't necessarily have a lot of to do with, like the cultural resources that will work together on providing those updates based on the committees and the groups that deal with those more. But when we look at the issues, the top one, which we updated quite a bit, was the process we went through over the last year of we've had this intergovernmental cooperation with the city for the last 50 years, really 100 years, but 50 years officially. So we just put in there the actual intergovernmental agreement that was finally executed in November to put it into that particular role. Then we updated like trail development and kind of where we're at since this was updated. The Great Pinery Heritage Waterway was added. The Ice Age Trail became a national scenic trail. We're working on a couple of future trails with Mountain Bay State Trail, possibly a state trail from Merrill to Wausau that will go beyond this plan. But there's a study that was paid for by a private group on a possible corridor in the future. Looking at water quality, which is something that CPZ will help me on, as well as what our water resources are for recreation. We'll add that section in there. And then when it comes to this land acquisition, that's been a point of discussion every time we look at the strategic plan. So that is something that's identified in both our county forest plan as well as our outdoor recreation plan, just as and I actually have it up, I think, on page 7 of the entire document. I'll actually go to that so I can pinpoint what that is based on, and I just highlight it in here. Let's see, page 7. The acreage needed. So it's on your page 7 of this chapter, and it references why that 320 acres was ever put in there in the first place, and it's really based off of there's a national kind of formula that is recommended to be used on the number of park acres to residents. And this was based on the projected growth of the county up to 2030 and where we would be with public lands, and that's just county, state, and county park and county forest, and then state lands, and how they pertain to our population. So that will be something when I update my outdoor recreation plan, we'll relook at that population growth to see if we're on that same trajectory or if it's reduced or what that means, and update those. But again, I mentioned in the issues that this is a item based on those numbers, but not a goal that we actively go out and seek, because we are not looking to buy, we're not looking to buy land from people unless they're willing landowners, they come to us. So we put some some wording in there, and then we'll maintain whatever acreage we need based on those plans for natural resources and based on that updated number. We didn't really change a lot of the rest of these issues, but one issue that we would like to add that I mentioned and talked about today with the Park Commission is an issue that we have within our offerings and our outdoor recreation that we do within the county, and it has to do with climate and the weather. And we have a drill. Do you have to go somewhere? Okay. Well, I'll keep talking until someone tells us we need to go somewhere.
somebody getting in this the wrong way.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So one of the things, for instance, 9 Mile County Forest is a major facility for the county, something that we take pride in. It's also part of our major revenue sources when it comes to ski passes and stuff. We were open for 10 days for cross-country skiing this year. And so the lack of snow and the warmer weather, the extreme weather, the extreme cold, is something that we need to start looking to adapt to. And what do we offer in the meantime? Or what facilities do we look at? Is snowmaking an option? Snowmaking is only as good as the temperature too, because if it's too warm, you can't make snow. So that's not a guarantee that we'd have snow. So we want to put that as an issue in here, and just how are we going to continue to offer services and keep our amenities that we have active and usable by the county population in changing weather conditions, and how we look at that. So that will also be, as we look at the goals, we made some changes to the goals, and that number 4, because we are not really, we don't know what our role is yet of cultural resources. That's something that Lori and I talked about we need to define, but we could replace that 4th goal with, developing a plan for offering services and amenities in changing weather or in low snow years. I think winter is really our major issue. We don't have any problems in the summer and the spring, fall, but winter is one we have to address. So that's kind of an overview, really quick overview of what we've done so far. More to be done.
So any comments on that chapter right now before we go back to chapter 6?
Supervisor Kroll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one recommendation for the water quality and water recreation. It says insert a related issue, and I think the Big O Plain would be a really good example of this. So, yeah, I guess that's just my thoughts on that.
Yep. And that's exactly what we were thinking too.
Good. Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Jumping back to chapter 6, let's see. So chapter 6 is water resources, and I'm not going to spend too much time on the background except to say that we do have a ton of data that we're going to be bringing into this chapter, so we haven't had a chance to do as much as we wanted to yet on this, so we'll be bringing this back to you again in a couple months, but I did want to keep it in here on the agenda today because, as Supervisor Kroll just pointed out, there's definitely some linkages between water resources and recreation, and Director Polly and I had talked about making sure that there was an issue identified both in the water resources and the recreation chapter to how those two tie together. So I'm going to skip through most of the background except to say that, yes, we have a lot of data to bring forth from the groundwater study and from new information we're getting from the DNR related to some of the presentations they've given us in the last year about water quantity as well. So we will work to update that. In terms of the issues that we've been workshopping, get down to that page. So the first issue that we've been workshopping sort of for the update is to protect water quality at a regional level with a set of common goals. I think even if you've only been on the ERC for the last year, or if you've been on here for a few years, pretty much every time CPZ comes to talk to you about an educational topic, there is definitely a water quality component to many of the topics we're bringing forward here. And, you know, I think what we're seeing is water quality is something that everyone is concerned about, but sometimes the solutions for how we're going to achieve and maintain it can be complex. And what we're realizing too is that, you know, it's not just one area or sector that's going to resolve the water quality issue. We all have to work collaboratively within the county and the region to get behind water quality. So there's going to be things where, you know, this is an urban issue and a rural issue. It goes across multiple sectors. So we just really think that the issues need to identify that need not only to work from a common set of goals within the county, but within the region. The county conservationists and I had an opportunity to go to a regional summit last week where we met with regional partners who were talking about a lot of the same water quality issues as we are talking about in this county, and also just lamenting about how we all need to work together as a region, because obviously water does not recognize boundaries either. So that's one that we've been working on for an issue. The other issue that we've been developing has to do with education. One of the biggest observations from our 2024 well sampling effort was that there's definitely a lack of awareness from many residents on the need to routinely sample. And it's not that, you know, it's not that difficult to do, but they didn't know that that was something that should be done on a more routine basis. So we've been working with the health department a lot to talk about different educational ideas that we can do to educate residents on water quality and the need to test more regularly, and also discussing, and we'll discuss with you and the county board at a future date too, ideas for maybe how we can make it more convenient for homeowners to get their water tested on a more regular basis. A couple other issues that we are looking to potentially add and develop further with you all. PFAS, obviously, you just heard from solid waste. PFAS is an issue. I know you've heard it in the press here too, so that's going to continue to grow and evolve, and we're going to need to continue to identify what roles we play in addressing PFAS issues in the county. We also think that we might need to put an issue in here related to preparedness for maintaining access to clean drinking water. That could be both from a natural disaster preparation, but also just increasing concerns that we're seeing with contamination. How are we going to make sure we have access to clean drinking water when we need it? We've talked about the water quality and that connection and impacts to tourism and recreation, and then also an issue around water quantity concerns. So those definitely exist as well. We've talked with the ERC about that before. In terms of the goal has remained unchanged from 2016, but the objectives we've been working on right now, and might bring forth some additional suggestions later, but for now we have protect and enhance the quantity and quality of potable groundwater and potable surface water supplies, coordinate with regional partners to promote efforts that protect municipal and private well water recharge areas, reduce agricultural non-point runoff to surface water in effort to reduce impaired miles in Marathon County, river miles, and manage lake and reservoir resources to balance concerns of shoreline residents, users, local businesses, and protect natural resources. So that's what we have thus far. Again, this is a very early working draft for Chapter 6. So.
All right, does anybody have any questions? Comments? Vice Kroll, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious if there's any potential for collaboration with the infrastructure, and specifically the highway department, to maybe use less salt on the biggest county with the most county highways miles, and how that could perhaps impact water quality. And
Yeah, I think we could definitely add, it probably would be a great opportunity within this to sort of explain what they have done in terms of reducing salt application, I think, and then get that into this chapter as well. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All righty, thank you.
Great.
Now we will go to item 6A4, discussion of 2026 update of the Marathon County General Code of Ordinances, Chapter 17, zoning code. A, input from town surveys. B, discussion on amendments to be further developed.
All right, so I just wanted to give the committee a little bit of an update on the zoning code update. If you recall, we did in February send out surveys to all of the townships of Marathon County. So that's counties that participate in county zoning and towns that don't participate in county zoning. And what the goal of that was essentially just to get feedback from them on what things we could incorporate into our zoning code, how our administration of that code is working for them. So I just put a summary here. I would also like to add, we are still receiving some of those surveys. I just received 2 of them as I was sitting here, so I'll make sure to get that information to you guys. But for the sense of this presentation, not all of the surveys are in here yet. But as as of a week ago, roughly, we only had 5 county-zone towns so far respond to the survey, so we're still waiting on 13 of those surveys. And as we get those, like I said, I'll be sure to bring them forward to you guys so you guys can see what they're going. I just kind of summarized the responses. So 80% of those that we received out of those 5 surveys indicated Chapter 17 aligns with their town's development goals. 80% indicated that the county is doing a good job at administering the code. The 20% that indicated a poor job of administering the code, really their rating was based on our ability to regulate wind and solar, which is quite complicated and limited by the state currently. And then 100% of those surveys said they plan to continue with county zoning. So some recommendations from those surveys. Again, we got a recommendation for strict wind and solar regulations and setbacks. I would like to add again, we're very limited on what we can actually do with those. We're always, looking and taking in other ideas, but as far as a surefire way to make that happen, it's more complicated than just putting it into an ordinance. So we'll continue to do our research on that, but I wanted to give you what the recommendations from the towns were. We also received one that would like to increase our accessory structure sizes in residential districts. If you recall, I know some of you weren't on the board, I believe last year or the year prior, we did actually increase our residential accessory structure sizes to accommodate larger buildings. We are still getting requests from let it be the public or townships that feel that our sizes in those residential districts for accessory structures should also be larger. So that was the recommendations that we received, kind of a summary of them from county zone towns regarding the code. Some of their comments, they would like better direction on how our county processes work. So essentially what we do have help sheets that we kind of submit, and we do try and guide the towns through those processes. So we're going to kind of update some of those and make sure that they have updated help sheets for those specific processes. I did follow up on this just to see if it was, from a zoning perspective or what perspective it was coming from, whether it's a different department. It was just a general statement that they'd like to understand the county's processes a little bit better. So there wasn't anything that really came to their mind. The county processes in general. We did receive some that they would like cliff notes of the zoning code so that the town board could create or have a quicker understanding of the zoning code. One of the things we have, I call them little cheat sheets depending on the zoning district. We're going to be sending those to the townships so they can use those. I will say it's very hard to make cliff notes of a zoning code just because they're really detailed and there's certain standards they have to meet. But we do have zoning district help sheets that kind of lay that out. So I think that will help address that comment from our county zone towns. And those are all available online right now currently. A lot of it's just making them known that they're there. So that's what we're going to focus on doing there. We did receive, we sent out a different survey to county zone town or non-county zone towns to try and get an idea of the things they have in place rather than county zoning, if they were interested in joining county zoning, or the reasons that they aren't in county zoning. So we did receive 7 back. We still have 14 we have to hear from of those surveys. So essentially 28% of those that we received back would like more information about county zoning. I did follow up on some of them, and you know, it's not necessarily that they're ready to join county zoning, but they also want to hear our ideas on maybe how they could make their zoning code more effective, which honestly I think is a great benefit. I don't look at the county zoning department as a department that can only help the people in county zoning. I think we have a duty to kind of help all of our townships. So it's good to hear that they kind of want to reach out and get input from us and whatnot. Common reasons for not participating in county zoning. The biggest one is loss of local control, and then residents are against it. They feel county code is more for urban areas versus rural areas, and then their current system is just working for their town. County zoning is not for every township. There's townships that do perfectly fine by themselves or have found kind of a way to navigate it that works for their township. So, but I will say the number one reason is likely that loss of control aspect. We do our best in county zoning to make sure we're getting the town's inputs on everything that we're doing. But it is a uniform code, so if you participate in county zoning, you're under the same zoning rules as another town that participates. There's not as much room for kind of molding that to their exact township. How can the county better support townships? Again, a lot of these comments aren't necessarily all related to zoning. It was just kind of a question that we had put in those surveys to get an idea. A lot of we had comments regarding, you know, communications relating to grants, whether there's certain grants that townships can go for. I know helping them stay informed on what's happening in the county, collaborate with the townships, making sure that we all are part of the same Marathon County team. So they'd like a little bit more collaboration, road maintenance assistance, and then funding for agricultural communities. Those were kind of the synopsis of the town survey summaries that we received from the non-county zone towns. And then I believe this is item B, or the number 2 under that one. So I just wanted to kind of let you guys know of some areas that we're looking at doing some possible amendments to the zoning code. We've run into many cases. We're looking to add the addition of a contractor use. And what I mean by that is somebody that has a business that, you know, maybe it's a construction business and they have a job trailer that they store at their house. Right now, we have to do a major home occupation for those. And essentially that's a conditional use permit. We're looking at adding a use. We're not exactly sure how that would look yet, but we're working on drafting that. Just to kind of allow for those uses, maybe a little bit easier if they're not going to have very much impact on the community. A lot of these are in residential areas where somebody's got a construction business or they're a mobile mechanic, or, you know, the options are endless with businesses. We're also getting a lot of requests for, like, somebody has a separate property for, they want to store their equipment on a separate property. So we're just trying to find, you know, what zoning districts would that work in. What we don't want is, you know, a giant storage yard in a residential community. So it's trying to find that balance. We are also looking at the special events section of Chapter 17. And I add that in there because we did just go through, County Board just went through the whole 12.04 large assemblies licensing ordinance. So we just want to make sure our zoning code accurately reflects and references that. So if people are looking to get or have a special event on a property, they know when to look at that ordinance as well. I mentioned this before. We're also looking at potentially increasing the accessory structure maximum size limits, trying to figure out, you know, what a good balance is. And and taking into account, residential properties versus agriculture. Right now, agriculture doesn't have a maximum size. They have a maximum height, but not a square footage, and what the appropriate size might be in a residential area. Fence regulations, we're just looking to simplify the language and also increase fence height limits. Right now, our fence height limit is set at 6 feet. We've had a lot of requests from citizens looking to get an 8-foot fence, like a residential 8-foot privacy fence type thing. So we're looking at that and potentially looking to increase that. And the next bigger section we're looking at are sign regulations. Looking to kind of simplify that section a little bit and make it a little less restrictive than it is. Right now, our setback from the right-of-way is 15 feet. Which we've found in a lot of the rural communities. If you have a business or whatnot, and you go 15 feet back from the road right of way, that might not seem like a lot, but if you have a wooded lot or it's set back and 15 feet is in the woods, it's hard to see when you're going down the road. And potentially looking at increasing the size of those signs that they can be. There are things we have to look into this. We're planning to get some direction from the highway department as well to see what potentially a safe distance looks like. On state roads, 15 feet is in statute, so we'll have to keep that into account, but this would be more for our local roads, whether it's county or township roads. So those are kind of the areas we're looking at now. Once we start getting more surveys in, there might be more things that pop up that we're looking at. Apart from those, we're doing, just general updates, whether it's, we just updated our shoreline and our floodplain ordinance to 2 separate codes, so we got to go through the entire ordinance and change the references to all those as well. But these are kind of the chunk that we're looking at now. That's not just a simple little update. It's just what we're going to dive a little bit more in depth to. No, I didn't. Thank you, Lori. So essentially, we have to have our comprehensive plan or a comprehensive zoning code update, not to be confused with a comprehensive plan. They're 2 separate things. And 2026 is when this is due. So I have a timeline in front of here. I shared this before. February, we sent out those surveys. May through August, we're looking to have, ERC discussions, bringing in the town comments, CPZ suggestions, and then other committee ideas. September through October, we're looking to, take that information we got from there, draft it, and release it to the townships for additional comments. So that'll be our draft we send to the towns to get their comments on that draft. And then in November would be kind of the modification based on those comments. And discuss that draft with ERC. And then December is when we hope to have the final draft prepared for adoption, presented to ERC. The goal would be to have it forwarded on to the county board for their approval. That way in 2026, we have a clean start date on when the zoning code would be updated. There is a process, since this is a comprehensive zoning code revision, towns have to re-sign up essentially for county zoning, so they'll have to pass a resolution, and they have a year to do so. In that year gap, the county will be enforcing the current zoning code as it is now, and then the new one as well once a town signs up for it. So if a town takes a year to sign up, we're enforcing the old code until we hit that year mark. At that year mark, if we didn't hear from them, it's assumed they're not joining county zoning, and we stop enforcing it. But we'll make sure we're in contact with the townships to make sure they're aware of that as well.
Okay, any questions or comments for Shad? Yep, Supervisor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious how often this has to be done. Is this like you typically done with the comprehensive plan, or is this like separate?
So this is completely separate from the comprehensive plan. In 2015, when they did their comprehensive revision from the old code to what we have today, they put a provision in there that we would do a comprehensive update every 10 years to the zoning code. And that was predominantly to allow towns to choose whether they wanted to remain in county zoning or get out. Once a town joins county zoning, historically, there was only one way to get out, and that's when a county did a comprehensive update. They had the choice. Now, in, I believe it's 2029, there will be a statute that comes into play where they can essentially get out when they want, provided they follow a certain process. But the county board chose 10 years.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thanks, Chad. We will move on to item 7, policy issues, discussion and potential committee determination. None. Item 8, our next meeting is June 3rd, 2025, 3 p.m. Assembly Room, and future agenda items. 8A, committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. 8B, announcements, requests, correspondence.
Vice Chair Ritter, do you want,
Yeah.
are we going to make an,
I
I think
yeah.
everyone is aware that
Yeah,
Supervisor Longenhan has resigned from the county board, so Chair Gibbs is working to replace the chair and the ERC member, I believe in May, is what I'm hearing, I think. So, unless you want to add, do you know more to that?
No, that's about it. And in case anybody is wondering, yes, I did express interest in taking the chair position, so. But ultimately, it's up to Chair Gibbs. As long as I got you two to help. Okay, any other announcements? Okay. Item 9, adjournment. Supervisor Drabeck with the motion. Supervisor Kroll with the second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
I didn't know that. I didn't either.